My boyfriend, let's call him Isaac, has his own podcast. It's finally starting to blow up a little. Due to privacy and me quite literally being on a few of the episodes, I'm not naming the show. He also has a YouTube that's recently gained quite a following. He's nowhere near famous, but he's finally starting to be recognized. I used to be the main co-host, but I've been too busy with work lately to be overly active on the show. Obviously, you can't have a podcast with one person. That's kind of boring. So Isaac told me he found someone to have as a more constant co-host when I'm not available. I told him that was great and asked him who it was. He told me her name was Abigail and sent me her Instagram. It didn't seem like he was hiding anything, so everything felt fine. But about a week later, we were having dinner with our friend group when Isaac's best friend, Josh, told me in front of everyone that he was surprised about how cool I was with Isaac working with his ex-fling. Let's say my reaction was the complete opposite of cool. I was more upset that Isaac lied to me than anything. Why would he feel the need to lie about something like that? I like to consider myself pretty laid back about these kinds of things. Would I have felt awkward? Yes. But the show is recorded in the apartment that me and Isaac share, and I seriously don't see him cheating on me. We're really serious and have been talking about marriage lately. But the fact that he lied? It's the only red flag he's really shown me, but I just feel really weird about it. When we got home, I made him talk to me about it. About a year before he met me, he met Abigail and had a friends with benefits relationship with her. Apparently he ended things with her because he wanted something more serious, something with labels, and she didn't. Once again, not that disturbing or weird, but he still lied to me. And the way that his best friend said it was almost in awe, like the idea was unbelievable, making me think there's more to the story. I told Isaac I don't feel comfortable with him and Abigail because if he felt the need to lie to me about working with an ex-fling, it's probably not the best idea. He said he really needed someone who could be a constant co-host on the show if I couldn't, and I said he would just have to find someone else because I was not comfortable with this. I told him maybe I would have been if he didn't lie, but he lost that chance. I kept going far enough to say if he kept talking to her, I might have to reconsider our relationship. He eventually agreed, but he's been giving me the silent treatment for the last couple days. Our friend group knows what happened due to the mid-dinner announcement. It's split 50-50. Some of my friends think I should cut him some slack and he didn't mean to lie. They're saying Isaac is a good guy who just didn't want to hurt my feelings, but I have a really bad feeling about this. Now I'm worried I really did overreact. Other things like this have happened before, now that I really think about it. But so many of our friends are saying I'm overreacting over a small mistake, and I think they might be right. Now that I think about it, small things like this have happened in the past. But the thing is, I love Isaac. I'm willing to keep trying for him. I just can't get the sick feeling out of my stomach. The friends on my side think I should continue to talk to him about this, but I don't even know what to say at this point. I really need some advice. Edit. For all of the people going straight to breakup, I do want to make it known that I really love this man. We've been dating for 4 years. We have a child. I'm kidding, she's a cat. I understand that ending things might be the only option, but right now I want to focus more on advice than hearing how I should end things. Isaac has been with me during one of the hardest periods of my life. Losing my sister. He is strong and kind and in the nicest possible way, an airhead. If breaking up becomes necessary, we'll switch gears. But all I need right now is some brutal honesty and advice on what I should say to him. Edit number 2. He does have another job due to the fact that we can't survive off my money and the podcast alone. He works today, and I work tonight. I'll only have an hour to talk to him, and I want things to be a lengthy conversation. So I'm going to wait until I'm off on Friday. I don't know what exactly I'll say yet, but I'll figure it out. Thank you for all the responses, and I'll make sure to update. Update 1. 2 hot takes wouldn't allow me to post this, so here we are. I'll link part 1 in the comments. I'm hoping this will reach all of the people that saw and commented on my post. First off, I want to thank you so much. To the ones of you who helped me think of questions to ask him, I cannot thank you enough. I was diagnosed with severe anxiety when I was 10 years old. I spent all morning pacing and had a minor anxiety attack before talking to him. Normally, things like this make me burst into tears, no matter how major or minor. But I'm proud to say I held my ground. He brought me coffee this morning, something he almost always does. He's been talking to me more now, but there's still this weird distance between us. He brought me coffee, kissed my forehead, and we ate breakfast together. He told me about work, and everything felt so perfect, but I knew deep down it wasn't. That this nagging feeling would never go away if I didn't talk about Abigail. So in the most uncouth way possible, I blurted out, "We need to talk." Isaac tensed and finally nodded, surprising me by saying, "We do." 1 point to anxiety. We talked for around 2 hours. I'm going to summarize our conversation. The first thing I asked was how long they've been in contact. He told me that the way they met was from being in the same psychology class in college and being in a study group. This added up. I know that he's still close with that old study group. Some of the guys in that group are his best friends, Josh being one of them. He told me they've stayed in contact through that group chat, but haven't talked one-on-one until recently. The second thing I asked was why the hell didn't he tell me? I teared up a little asking him, and he immediately started profusely apologizing. I told him that it hurt to hear it from Josh and not him. He said, and I quote, "I didn't think it was a big deal. I know it's stupid, but I just didn't think about it." He told me that they aren't the best of friends, and she just seemed like a good replacement for me until I could be more active again. I asked why he wanted her and why she was the first thought, and he explained how he wanted to do more topics revolving around college life/classes and study tactics, and she would be a good person to do that with since she was a part of his life during that stage. He told me that he loves me, and he never meant to hurt me. He admitted that he knew it might make me uncomfortable, so he chose not to tell me because he knows how much I tend to spiral due to my anxiety. I got frustrated and told him that wasn't his choice to make. He agreed with me and told me he was sorry and he won't do it again. He added that Abigail will never have to come on the podcast, and he never wants to purposefully make me uncomfortable. I agreed, saying I didn't want her on the podcast. Then the tables turned a little. I thought this was going so great. We were in agreement and everything seemed fine. I had a little bit of closure, and he seemed content. But then he asked me something I couldn't have guessed. There's something else. She sent me intimate pictures. What the fudge? I felt my heart break a little and asked how he responded. He showed me the messages. They were 2 fudging days old. He responded with a single message, "I'm flattered, but I have a girlfriend." Yet he didn't block her. I demanded he cut contact with her, and he argued saying it would make it awkward for his friend group. I argued that I was his fudging girlfriend and yeah, the situation was awkward. I asked him how he would react if Josh sent me nudes, and that got to him. He admitted that he'd cut him off and expect me to do the same. He nodded and agreed to block her. I watched him block and delete her contact. I still didn't feel content. He saw those messages 2 days ago and didn't tell me. That was my breaking point. I basically said, maybe honesty isn't as important to you as it is to me, but if one of your friends sent me nudes, I would tell you within minutes. I kept going and started crying, and he did too. He kept apologizing and saying that he hadn't brought it up to me because he felt like I was avoiding him, and he wanted to wait until he knew I was ready to talk, which felt like bullshit because he was giving me the silent treatment. I wasn't considering breaking up in my last post, but now, I don't know. I know this wasn't the update you guys wanted, and I promise there will be another one. I told him that I needed space, and I'm someone who's rare to set my boundaries until I'm really upset. He apologized and tried to hold me, but I stepped back. I'm writing this from my best friend's place. I'm over at her house right now staying the night. I told Isaac we can talk again in a couple days, but right now I need to think things through. The thing is, he cried when I started talking about ending things. Isaac doesn't cry. The only time I've ever seen him cry in our entire 4-year-long relationship was when his mom died. He loves me. I know he does. But I feel so lied to. Maybe I'm overreacting, but right now I just feel betrayed. I'm sorry, and I know this wasn't the update you all wanted. But thank you to all of you. If you want to give me advice, please do. I don't know where to go next, and I still have questions I want to ask him. I'm okay with answering questions too. I'll try to update if something else happens, good or bad. And if anyone's curious, yes, I brought our cat with me. Update 2. Sorry it's been so long since I've posted. A lot has happened, and I'm honestly not sure where to start, but I'll start with this. We broke up. I ended up contacting Abigail. Some comments thought it might be smart, so I reached out to her over Instagram and asked for her side of the story. She had no idea who I was at first. She then seemed very surprised I was contacting her. She realized who I was from the little Isaac told her, but according to her, he said we started dating last month, not 4 years ago. This information really confused me, and I needed to know more. We met up for coffee, and she filled me in that they've been hooking up every once in a while, in her words, maybe once or twice every 6 months for years. She started crying and hugged me while she apologized, saying she had no idea I had been his girlfriend for so long. So apparently, their FWB relationship never ended, and he had been cheating on me the entire time we had been together. She assured me they had been safe and I shouldn't have anything, but in all honesty, I kind of blanked out. I was with this man for 4 years. I don't blame her in the slightest. I think she wants to keep in contact, but right now it's too painful to talk to her. It's not her fault, it's purely Isaac's, but I just can't deal with anything that is remotely connected to him right now. I'm so confused on whether Josh knew this or not, but I feel like he wouldn't have said anything that night at dinner if he did. I'm so sorry this update took so long. I broke up with Isaac over text, classy, I know, and told him my best friend would stop by to collect his things. I also bought our cat and said that I'd like to keep her. He protested on the breakup, saying we could get couples therapy, but I said there was nothing that could fix 4 years of lying. Right now I'm living with my best friend and we're having some serious girl time. I'm in shreds, but I know that this was for the best and it would have hurt more to stay. Sorry again for the late update, and thank you all for your advice. Update 3. Josh ended up calling me last night. At first, I didn't answer in fear it was really Isaac trying to contact me through him, but after the third call I did. This guy sounded pissed. The first thing he said was, "Name. I am so fudging sorry." He didn't give me any room to speak before going on this tangent on what a shitty guy Isaac is and how he can't believe he was best friends with a guy like that for so long. He told me that he made a spontaneous stop by at my old apartment, something that wasn't unusual for him, and was confused when he realized I wasn't living there anymore. Isaac admitted to cheating on me, something Josh didn't know, but had suspected. You guys were right. He said that comment to warn me. Some things I've come to realize is Isaac was possessive. He wouldn't let me hang out with our male friends one-on-one. He was always lurking next to me. Josh told me he alerted our entire friend group of what Isaac did, and while 2 or 3 of the guys took Isaac's side, what the fudge, the rest felt terrible for me. They cut contact with Isaac and those couple guys. Josh told me that if I need anything, he would love for me to ask him, and he apologized again, saying he should have told me earlier when he thought he'd seen the signs, but he never would have assumed Isaac had been carrying this infidelity for so long. So yeah, I guess 2 could do another update if anything big happens, but this is where I stand. Relevant comments. Commenter. What made Josh suspect the cheating? OP. Last year I was away for a week because me and some friends went to the camping. Apparently he did one of his stop-bys to see if Isaac wanted to hang out, and Isaac wouldn't come to the door. Josh thought he heard a female's voice and some noises. Isaac ended up telling him I had been on the phone with him, which is BS because I had no service for that entire camping trip. OP when told to hook up with Josh. I already said this to a reply up there, but Josh is the last person I want to see right now. And frankly, I don't want to date anyone. I just found out the man that I wanted to marry has been cheating on me for our entire relationship. I'm probably not going to go back into the dating pool for at least a year, and I'm someone who likes some heavy emotional connection before sleeping with someone. Josh is a great friend, but in all honesty, it was hard to just hear his voice over the phone knowing that he was so heavily tied to Isaac. Update 4. I didn't expect to be back here so soon. So, after I posted the last update, I did what any heartbroken person does. I threw myself into girl time, binge-watched trash TV, and ate more Ben and Jerry's than I'd like to admit. My best friend, let's call her Emily, has been a godsend. I wasn't even thinking about Isaac or Josh for a while until I got the strangest DM request on Instagram. Guess who? Abigail. Again. But this time, it wasn't a weepy apology. Her message started off with a simple, "Hey, I think we need to talk." Oh God, here we go again. I nearly left it unread, but curiosity got the best of me. I was still angry, but I figured maybe she had more dirt on Isaac. So, I agreed to meet up again. This time I was ready for whatever bombshell she was about to drop. Except, it wasn't about Isaac. It was about Josh. Apparently, Josh had been texting her nonstop since the breakup. And not just checking in. He'd been flirting with her hard, telling her he always thought she was hot, how he was relieved. Isaac was out of the picture because now he could shoot his shot. Abigail wasn't having it, though. She felt weird about the whole thing and sent me screenshots of Josh's attempts to get cozy with her. I was stunned. Like, what in the actual hell? This guy calls me, all self-righteous and pissed at Isaac, then turns around and tries to get with the girl he knows helped wreck my relationship? The audacity. So, I did what any mildly unhinged ex would do. I confronted Josh. It was awkward as hell. I called him up, and the moment he answered, I went straight for the jugular. I said, "So, how's Abigail? You enjoying your little chats?" Dead silence on the other end. He tried to play it off like it wasn't a big deal. "I was just being friendly," he said. Friendly? Friendly? I reminded him of the part where I was still picking up the pieces of my life that his best friend detonated with his cheating, and maybe, just maybe it was a bad look to hit on the woman who was part of the whole mess. Josh kept trying to apologize, but honestly, I didn't want to hear it. The trust one had in people was already shattered from Isaac, and now Josh, who I thought was one of the good guys, was proving to be just as much of a clown. So yeah, friendship over. I blocked him too. Screw it. I'm just out here Marie Kondoing my life. If it doesn't spark joy, it's gone. Now, you might think that's where the story ends, but nah, it gets weirder. After the whole Josh-Abigail revelation, Emily invited me to a house party to blow off some steam. I went, fully intending to drink my weight in vodka sodas and avoid anything remotely resembling romance. But guess who shows up? Isaac. Yep, he had the audacity to show up at the same party. I didn't even notice him at first, was too busy getting lost in conversation with some new friends. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him. He was talking to some of our mutuals, looking, well, miserable, if I'm being honest. Of course, the universe wasn't going to let me avoid this showdown. We locked eyes across the room, and I saw him start walking toward me. My heart started racing, but I steeled myself. No way was I letting him get inside my head again. He asked to talk, and for some idiotic reason, maybe curiosity or just masochism, I agreed. We stepped outside, and I could feel the tension crackling between us. It wasn't the kind of drama you see in the movies with tears and shouting. It was quieter, more restrained, but still intense. "I miss you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I blinked. Like, what? I wanted to laugh in his face. "You miss me?" I repeated, incredulous. "You mean between all the lies and cheating?" He didn't deny it. He just stood there, looking like a kicked puppy. For a second, I almost felt bad for him. But then I remembered Abigail, and the fact that he'd been two-timing me for 4 years. I told him flat out, "I can't trust you. You destroyed everything." He didn't fight back, didn't argue, just nodded. Then he dropped one last bombshell, as if the universe hadn't thrown enough chaos my way. "I'm moving," he said, "out of state." Apparently, he'd gotten an offer for a bigger podcast gig, one that would let him leave the mess he made behind. It felt like such an Isaac move, run from the damage instead of fixing it. He tried to spin it like he was doing me a favor, giving me space to heal or whatever, but I knew better. I didn't even say goodbye, just turned around and walked back inside, where Emily handed me a drink and pretended like nothing happened. God, I love her for that. So yeah, that's where things are. Isaac's leaving town. Josh is blocked. Abigail's out of my life for good. And me? I'm still figuring it out. Update 5. Okay, so I thought I was done updating, but life had other plans. First off, Isaac. Remember how he said he was moving out of state for that new podcast gig? Well, turns out he didn't move. At least, not yet. Guess who texted me out of the blue last week? Isaac, asking if we could meet one last time before he leaves. Now, I don't know what kind of delusional state I was in, but for some reason, I agreed. Maybe I thought I'd get some closure. Maybe I thought I'd get some kind of final, "I'm sorry, I'm a terrible person" speech that would help me move on. Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. We met up at a cafe in a quiet part of town. I made sure it was a public place because, honestly, I didn't trust myself not to slap him across the face if things went south. He walked in looking like he hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled, just a complete mess. I almost felt sorry for him. Then he dropped the bombshell. "I'm not moving anymore," he said, looking all sheepish. "What? Why?" I asked, half annoyed, half curious. "They canceled the gig," he admitted, staring down at his coffee like it had all the answers. Something about the funding falling through. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This guy had been stringing me along, cheating, lying, and now the universe decided to throw a wrench in his big escape plan. It was almost poetic. Almost. But here's where it gets worse. "I want to try again," he said, out of nowhere. I nearly choked on my iced coffee. "Excuse me?" "I know I messed up," he said, running his hand through his hair in that nervous way he does when he's about to say something dumb. "But I still love you. We've been through so much, and I can't just let that go." I sat there, speechless. Like, did this guy really think he could waltz back into my life after 4 years of betrayal and drop a line like that? I couldn't even form a coherent response, just sat there staring at him, blinking, like he'd lost his mind. He kept going. "We could go to therapy. I'll cut off all my old friends, move to a new apartment, whatever you need. I know I hurt you, but I can change." At this point, I was half laughing, half crying inside. This wasn't a rom-com. He wasn't going to swoop in, say the right things, and have everything magically be okay. I told him as much. "I can't trust you. Ever again," I said, finally finding my voice. "You lied for years, Isaac. You cheated, you hid things, and now you think a few therapy sessions are going to fix this?" He looked like I'd punched him in the gut. But seriously, what did he expect? A hug and a pat on the back? "Thanks for ruining my life. But hey, let's get couples therapy?" No. I got up to leave, and that's when he pulled out the last desperate card. He grabbed my hand, and I swear, I almost felt bad. Almost. "I don't want to lose you," he said, voice breaking. Please, just think about it. I yanked my hand away, told him we were done for good, and walked out. I didn't even look back. And that, dear readers, was the final nail in the Isaac coffin. Or so I thought. Now, on to the next wild chapter. Abigail. Yep, she's back in the picture. Sort of. About 3 days after the Isaac Cafe disaster, I got another DM. This time, it was Abigail again. But it wasn't some apology or awkward confession. She sent me a screenshot of Isaac's new Instagram bio. He had rebranded his podcast. With her. Yep, you read that right. Isaac and Abigail had apparently decided to team up again for some new, exciting direction for the show. The bio read something like, exploring modern relationships with co-hosts Isaac and Abigail. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. The nerve of this guy. After all the crying, the begging, the I'll change, I swear routine. He was right back to working with the girl he cheated with. And not just working with her, making her his co-host. I messaged Abigail back, asking why the hell she'd agree to this after everything that had gone down. Her response? It's just business. Business? Business? My head was spinning. I don't know if Isaac's charm had somehow hypnotized her into thinking this was a good idea, but I wanted no part of it. Whatever nonsense they were planning, they could have it. I blocked them both, Isaac, Abigail, the podcast account, all of it. But it didn't end there. Oh no, because the next day, I got a call from Emily. Apparently, everyone in our old friend group had found out about the new Isaac-Abigail collab. And the drama? It's spreading like wildfire. Half the group is disgusted, calling Isaac out for being a snake, while the other half is somehow defending him, saying everyone makes mistakes, and it's just a podcast. People have started taking sides, and let's just say, things are getting ugly. I've already lost 2 friends who think I'm being too harsh on Isaac, as if 4 years of cheating wasn't enough to warrant some harshness. So, that's where things stand right now. Isaac's trying to turn his mess into some kind of twisted, modern relationships podcast with Abigail. Our friend group is basically splitting in half, and I'm just over here, trying to salvage what's left of my sanity. Update 6. Alright, so I thought the last update would be my final one, but it looks like life isn't done with me. Let me just start by saying, I've been trying really, really hard to focus on myself, my cat, and just staying far away from the Isaac-Abigail drama. I even signed up for yoga classes. Spoiler, I'm terrible at it, but it's fine. At least my downward dog is better than my taste in men. I was dead set on moving on, but of course, Isaac wasn't going to let that happen so easily. So, it's Friday night. I'm chilling with Emily, having a wine and movie night like any normal, emotionally recovering human, when I get a notification on my phone. My heart sinks a little because, let's be real, my trauma response is now finely tuned to expect bad news every time my phone dings. But I check it, and guess what? It's a notification from YouTube. Specifically, a link to a live stream. And guess who's live? Yup, Isaac and Abigail. But it's not just any old podcast episode. Oh no, these 2 geniuses decided to do a live Q&A about relationships. And not just any relationships, they're answering questions about cheating, trust, and growing from past mistakes. You cannot make this stuff up. Emily and I are sitting there, jaws on the floor, watching as Isaac, my ex, and Abigail, the girl he cheated with, give advice to their audience like they're some kind of enlightened relationship gurus. It's almost comical. Scratch that, it is comical. I've never seen something so outrageously tone-deaf in my life. Then things get worse. Halfway through the stream, someone in the chat asks a question that makes my blood run cold. Hey Isaac, what really happened with your last relationship? I swear I stopped breathing. Emily and I both leaned in, eyes glued to the screen, because I knew whatever was about to come out of his mouth was going to be bad. Isaac pauses, glances at Abigail, and then actually has the nerve to say, you know, I'm not going to go into all the details, but it was complicated. We just grew apart, and I think sometimes people hold on to the past in unhealthy ways. But I've learned a lot from it, and I'm in a much better place now. Grew apart? Grew apart? I almost threw my wine glass at the TV. Emily grabbed it just in time because, let's face it, I couldn't afford to replace my TV after Isaac's lies and the therapy I'm going to need after this whole mess. It was such a blatant, shameless rewrite of what actually happened. He completely glossed over the cheating, the lying, the fact that he'd been sneaking around for 4 years while telling me I was the love of his life. And now, he's sitting there with Abigail, the woman he was cheating with, pretending like he's some reformed man who's just learned from his past. I couldn't take it anymore. I logged off the live stream, feeling like I'd just been hit by a truck. But Emily, being the absolute warrior queen that she is, was not about to let that slide. She grabbed my phone and said, "Oh, hell no. We're not letting him rewrite your story like that. And that's when the chaos really started. Without hesitation, Emily logged into my Twitter account. I was too stunned to stop her, but honestly, I wasn't mad about it. She typed out a tweet faster than I've ever seen her move, and within minutes, it was out there for the world to see. Hey, at Isaac and Abigail. Funny how you conveniently forgot to mention that you cheated on me for 4 years while we were growing apart. Don't give advice when you can't even own up to your own mess. Hashtag receipts coming soon. I stared at the tweet in shock, my heart racing. Emily just shrugged and said, sometimes, you have to burn the bridge and the village. Well, Twitter did what Twitter does best. The tweet blew up. Within hours, the hashtag Isaac and Abigail lies was trending in our little corner of the internet. People were flooding the comments, calling out Isaac's hypocrisy, digging through his old posts, and asking for the full story. Some of our mutual friends even chimed in, backing me up with their own experiences of Isaac being sketchy. It was like this avalanche of truth that Isaac hadn't seen coming. But here's where things get really wild. Late that night, around 1 a.m., I get a text from an unknown number. It's Isaac. He's freaking out. The first message is some long, rambling apology about how he didn't mean to downplay our relationship and how he never thought the live stream would blow up like this. He says he's getting hate comments and people are calling him out on Instagram, and he's asking me to please take down the tweet and stop feeding the fire. I didn't reply. At least, not right away. I sat there, staring at my phone, thinking about everything that had led up to this moment. For years of lies. 4 years of thinking this guy was my future. And now, he wanted me to clean up the mess he made? Nah, not this time. So, instead of texting him back, I did the one thing I've been holding off on. I took all those receipt screenshots of his text with Abigail, the intimate photos she sent, the messages between them talking about their hookups, and posted them. No commentary. No long-winded explanation. Just the cold, hard facts. And then I turned off my phone. I woke up the next morning to chaos. Twitter was blowing up, my DMs were flooded, and Isaac? He was radio silent. He hadn't replied, and I hadn't heard a peep from Abigail either. Emily, on the other hand, was in full "I told you so" mode, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. As for me, I felt oddly calm. Like, for the first time in months, maybe even years, I finally had control of the narrative. I wasn't the girl who got cheated on and stayed silent. I wasn't the one letting Isaac and Abigail get away with rewriting history. I'd told the truth, and whatever happened next was on them. So yeah, I don't know what Isaac's next move is. Maybe he'll finally crawl into whatever hole he came from. Maybe the podcast will implode. Maybe Abigail will jump ship, if she's smart. But honestly, I don't care. For the first time in a long time, I'm done. I'm really truly done. And maybe that's the real update here. I'm moving on, for real this time. I'm not letting Isaac, or his lies, or his ridiculous relationship advice live streams take up any more space in my head. Update 7. After my last post, I thought that was it. I really did. I dropped the receipts, exposed Isaac and Abigail for the lying clowns they were, and I was ready to move on with my life. I threw myself into work, hit the yoga mat a little harder, still terrible, but at least I can touch my toes now, and I even started to feel free, like the storm had finally passed. But just when I thought I could finally breathe, Isaac came back. This time, not through a DM or some half-baked apology text, but by showing up at my door, unannounced. It was early Saturday morning. I was in my pajamas, binge-watching Love Island, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I ignored it at first, figuring it was a delivery or something. But then it rang again, and again, relentlessly. My cat, bless her heart, bolted under the couch, sensing the chaos before I did. When I finally opened the door, there he was. Isaac. He looked different, more disheveled than usual. Hair a mess, dark circles even worse than the last time I saw him. But there was this frantic, almost desperate energy about him that made my stomach flip. "What are you doing here?" I asked, crossing my arms, keeping the door half shut. Like that would somehow stop the madness I felt brewing. He didn't waste any time. "I need to talk to you. Please, just hear me out." I wanted to slam the door in his face. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to tell him to screw off. But against my better judgment, I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, keeping the barrier between him and the life I was trying to rebuild. "What is it?" I asked, my voice sharp. I was done with his games, done with the drama. "What could you possibly say that you haven't already?" He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling like he'd been holding his breath since the last time we spoke. "Abigail's gone." I blinked. "What do you mean, gone?" She left me, he said, his voice cracking, eyes wide with something I can only describe as panic. She took down the podcast, deleted all her social media, and just disappeared. I don't know where she is. I stood there, dumbfounded, trying to process what he was telling me. Abigail, the girl who was so deeply intertwined in this mess, was gone? Just like that? It sounded almost too perfect, too convenient. But I didn't have time to dwell on it, because Isaac wasn't done. She said it was because of the live stream, he continued, his voice frantic. She couldn't handle the backlash, the comments, the hate, all of it. She told me I ruined her life. I couldn't help it. I laughed, this sharp, bitter laugh that seemed to take Isaac by surprise. Oh, you ruined her life? That's rich, Isaac. What about the life you ruined? What about the 4 years you spent lying to me, cheating on me, and dragging me through hell? He opened his mouth to respond, but I wasn't done. And now you're standing here, looking for what? Sympathy? Forgiveness? Do you want me to feel bad for you because Abigail ditched you after you got caught? Isaac stepped closer, and for a split second, I saw something in his eyes that I hadn't expected. Fear. But it wasn't fear of losing me. No, it was fear of something else entirely. He wasn't here for an apology, or redemption, or closure. I think someone's after me, he blurted out. I stared at him, frozen. What? He glanced around, like he expected someone to jump out of the bushes. After the live stream, weird stuff started happening. I started getting these messages, not just hate comments, like personal stuff about my family, my past, things only someone close to me would know. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. This wasn't where I thought this conversation was going. I tried to reach out to Abigail to see if she was getting the same messages, but that's when I found out she was gone. Her apartment's empty, her numbers disconnected. It's like she vanished overnight. My head was spinning. This was too much. First the cheating, then the podcast drama, and now Isaac's unraveling in front of me, talking about someone coming after him. I couldn't tell if he was just spiraling, paranoid, or if there was something more sinister happening. Isaac, I don't know what you want me to do, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You made your bed, and now you have to lie in it. If someone's sending you creepy messages, call the police. But I'm not getting dragged into your mess again. His face crumbled, and for a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. You don't understand, he said, his voice low. This is bigger than the podcast. Bigger than me and Abigail. I think it's one of my friends. Someone from the group. My blood ran cold. Our friend group. The people we've been closest to for years. The same ones who had been so split when everything came out. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now, something didn't sit right. I took a step back, shaking my head. Isaac, I'm done. I don't want to hear any more of this. I've moved on, and I suggest you do the same. Before he could respond, I turned and walked back inside, locking the door behind me. My heart was pounding, my mind racing, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't getting sucked back into his world of chaos and lies. And that, I thought, was the end. But then, this morning, I got one final message. Not from Isaac, not from Abigail, from Josh. It was short, one line, just enough to send a chill down my spine. Careful who you trust. Isaac wasn't the only one lying. I stared at the message, my heart in my throat. What the hell did that mean? What was Josh playing at? Was he involved in the messages Isaac had been getting? Was he behind Abigail's disappearance? Or was this just another twisted game in the never-ending spiral of deceit? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care anymore. I blocked Josh's number, deleted every trace of Isaac and Abigail from my phone, and decided to take the one piece of advice I've been avoiding this whole time. Move on. So, this is it. For real this time.